Hello everyone, it's Jamal Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. I hope everyone is doing okay today. It's 4 p.m. on a Wednesday. Let me check my sound. I did before, but I always check it perfunctory. Guys, if you get the opportunity and you enjoy the content and you find yourself coming here often, please subscribe. I do videos all the time. Hit that little bell. I do videos all the time. It could be 3 in the morning when I would do a video. So please subscribe in order to keep up. And I'll also try to give look, there are certain issues that I focus on because those things are that matter to me. Those are things that are like core values. But I try to give a lot of videos. I do a lot of content. I want enough for my patrons to be satisfied with it. I want people who donate to be satisfied. And I want them to be able to enjoy it. And I don't have no expectation that people are going to like each and everything that I put out. So that's part of the reason why I put out a lot of content. But there's the secondary thing of I actually like doing this. So there's that. Also, before I start, Richard Wolff is going to be here on Friday. Richard Wolff will be here on Friday. That is going to be amazing. It's going to be at 10:30 in the morning. I'm giddy about this. Like, you have no idea how much I've wanted to talk to Richard Wolff. I've watched the man for years, and to have the opportunity to talk to him is mind-blowing. So that's going to be great. So 2 days ago, well, let's not start there. Let's start here. Moving train. Somebody in my other one quoted Howard Zinn saying, "It's like, how do you stay still on a moving train?" Meaning this idea of objectivity. What is objectivity from the standpoint of something is taking place in the world? I've made the point there is no such thing as objectivity. That human beings, regardless of the human being, has a lens to which they're looking through. There are going to be various lenses that are closer to the truth than others, but at the end of the day, you're still filtering reality through a lens. Even if you get rid of one lens, you're still going into another lens. There's no way away from it. The question becomes, what is your bias? What is the thing that you believe in? And from that point of view, looking at the world and being honest and observing that point of view, or observing the world, but giving your point of view relative to you and your value system, if that makes sense. Being neutral in a case where one side is being overwhelming and domineering and destroying another side and killing massive civilians. What is neutrality in the case of people killing massive civilians? Is neutrality CNN having a conversation about Saudi Arabia bombing a particular area, but not necessarily bringing up the fact that the United States has been supporting Saudi Arabia and the murdering and killing and the starving of Yemenis? Is that neutrality? Is that what objectivity is? Calling it what it is. Calling it what it is. And that was Howard Zinn's point. The same scale that you use for others, you try to use for yourself. And when you make those judgments about what's taking place in the world, that's the scale to which you measure. That is a fair and earnest scale. That's not necessarily a scale that people take on. Point of view. These threads are going to be disparate, but I kind of want to make a point. And I want to get across... I want to make a point, and I'm probably going to do this in a separate video, but I want to do it here. When I was 17, I was diagnosed with kidney failure. And being diagnosed with kidney failure at such a young age, there's difficulty that's associated with it. I've said this before. There's tremendous difficulty associated with it, but there's also tremendous difficulty of you being able to adapt to this. Apparently, this had been going on since I was 12. You get to the point where your body can no longer compensate. I think it's like 10% of the kidney at that point. Your body can no longer compensate, in which case you start having negative consequences. Those negative consequences either killing you or getting you to a doctor in time for them to say, oh my God, your kidneys don't work. That took on 10 years or a decade more of surgeries like every year. And some of those cases, major surgeries, and many of those cases, one or two of those cases, life-threatening surgeries. In one case, the surgeon told my doctor, we didn't have to have the surgery in this case, but he said, if you see me again, you're not getting off the table. Like, I'm trying to get across how dire some of these situations were. This took place for years. I've had more surgeries than I can count. And I've been at every hospital in Richmond, literally, not to mention hospitals in Farmville, etc., France, UK. Not an emergency in those situations, but I've been all over. I've had a long lifetime of illness and pain and suffering and limitation, and especially the limitation from the financial hardship associated with that stuff, but limitation from a physical sense. In addition to having the difficulties associated with it, the pain of surgery and all this other stuff, even the pain of separation, seeing others being able to do stuff that you can't. You're 19 years old and you have all of these medical things that you have to attend to. You've been cut on, you have all of the scarring, and you're seeing people go out, get hammered, and just have lives. It's a difficult thing. It may be part of the reason why my personality has gotten so extreme with this thing of freedom. Now, real freedom, not none of the bogus libertarian stuff. Freedom, being left to your own devices and being able to pursue the course. Granted, not necessarily adversely affecting others, but pursuing your course. That's a tangent. One of the painful things associated with this that went beyond the physical pain was having to deal with family. I hated family coming to the hospital. My mom said, screw that. If you tell a nurse that I can't come in, I'm going to cut that nurse and I'm going to have words with you. So my mom was going to be there regardless, and my mom was there constantly, always. My mom nearly got fired because she was there with me. She was there with me while she was having her own medical issues that required surgery that she put off for months on end, almost like over a year, to be there with me. Like, so I'm witnessing this. Yes, I'm in pain. Yes, I've had all these surgeries. Yes, all of this sucks. And then there's this difficulty of seeing your mom, the person who loves you, not being able to deal with the particular issue that's causing her son pain, her son illness, and her son's grief. It is a difficult thing for a mom to be able to not be able to reach to that degree, to have some external thing cause injury and pain to the thing that you love. And as a mom, you have this natural inclination to want to protect and shield that kid from it, and you are barred from doing that just by the way reality is structured. It's difficult. That's all I'm saying. It's been difficult. At 30, when I was 30, during all that time, I still went to school, and eventually I got my degree. In fact, I got a lot because it took years. And so I ended up getting credits in everything. Math, science, computer science, all the works. And so I ended up getting an interdisciplinary degree. I got a transplant. And with that transplant, the first transplant failed in 6 months. The second one worked. And it gave me enough time to finish my degree, to get, to move to New York, to end up with a girlfriend, and to be on the job for a while. A decent regular life. At a certain point, though, I think I was around 30, the kidneys started to fuck up. And it became very clear. I ended up in the hospital. And while I was in the hospital, I get a letter from my job telling me that I was fired. Literally, I actually did. They was like, hey, we need to talk. And clearly we understood what that meant. The company was being sold. They got rid of the company to which I worked. And when just so happened, when I needed to go out and take a medical leave, I got fired, taking a medical leave. Now, people like to say, oh, dude, that's illegal. You can always make up an excuse for why you're firing somebody. It may not necessarily have anything to do with the medical leave. It's the company's discretion at that point. It's hard to prove that, make that case. But again, besides the point. At the exact same time, the doctor is telling me, yeah, the transplant is failing. There's nothing we can do about it. And we don't want to push this because we don't want to damage any of your other organs. I take this news and I say, well, I estimate that based on the rate of failure, I have 7 months. And so I said, fuck it, I'm going traveling. And I went to visit my ex in somewhat of an inglorious trip that ended in essentially fireworks and misery. But what it taught me was that Americans can travel. It never occurred to me. Travel never occurred to me. And I met this British cat who was talking about jumping around the country. I got back home, and the very first thing that I did was book the trip to Amsterdam, one-way ticket, and I went. I jumped from place to place to place. One of the countries that I jumped into was Egypt. Blew my mind. This was Cairo. I was in Egypt for about 3 weeks, up and down the city. This is artwork that I bought that's not real. Now this wasn't signed by the artist. This was me. The marks on my face, you can see I clearly don't have those now, but those were because of the treatments that they were trying to do in order to save the kidney. It didn't work. Beautiful country. This guy tried to scam me. He tried to sucker me, get me to go on. She was my guide. She was awesome. We went through multiple places. This place, and the funny part is, she was being hit on by a guy who called himself some kind of guru or priest or something like that, and she did not recognize the fact she was being hit on. The relations between men and women are drastically different than they are here. It's odd. It's odd from our standards, but she was clearly being hit on. She didn't fully understand that she was being hit on by the guy. I was like, you're being hit on, right? This is me on the camel. This guy was awesome. He was my tour guide for the camel rides. Rambo. This was one of the mosque. The mosque was gorgeous. It was massive. Again, my guide. This guy's name is Fayed. Of everybody who I've traveled with, I don't remember anyone else's name. I remember his, because him and I sat and talked for 8 hours. There was a train going from Cairo to Aswan. Aswan was essentially the third chamber of hell from the standpoint of how hot Aswan was. He's a Christian in a Muslim country. And we sat and talked. We talked about relationships. We talked about women. We talked about how sexual relations are done there versus how they're done in the United States. Meaning how people, the surprise on the date when the guy takes his penis out and they're like, oh my God, look at that thing. No experience with this. The education system, how religion is ensconced in the system itself. But he was a Christian guy. It was an interesting conversation to say the least. Him and I got along awesomely well. 8 hours. It was a long ride, but interesting enough, I lost my ticket on the previous night, meaning I would have never met him if I hadn't lost my ticket. Let's keep going. This is me taking the camel. This is different spots. This is me posing for the camera. This is the Blue Hole. My Egyptian tour guides dropped me off there and left me. And I was like, when I realized that I had been left, I was pissed off. They came back to get me, but the damage had been done. Look, the point that I'm making and showing these is my disposition, my point of view of the world, why I come to the conclusions that I come to and how I come to these particular dispositions. Suffering sucks. Suffering sucks. It's not fun. If you've had this opportunity of being in dire straits and pain for long periods of time, it sucks. And then when you go over to that country and you meet one person after the next, you see their relationships. You see the woman arguing with the guy. You see him having the same reaction that people have here in the States. You see the guy who's helping you out speaking English and to be your intermediary just out of the blue. You see the person just trying to make food to make a living. You see the mom, you see the dad, you see the way they go about their affairs, going to this place, that place, commerce, all this other stuff. They're people. That's what you see. When you go to the Middle East, you see that they're human beings. They're people. That's my disposition. Suffering sucks. And you go there and you find out, holy shit, they're human beings just like me. They have a mom, they have a dad, they have a life. It's just like me. This is a lot of wood to chop. But I kind of want to make this point. We're bombing and assisting Saudi Arabia in killing and starving and murdering Yemenis. I look at this situation and I say, oh my God, this is horrific. And no one, meaning the Americans, who want to give their bravery over to the United States, I imagine that they did not sign up thinking that their bravery would be used in order to kill and to weaponize starvation and disease. This is amazing. 2 days ago, and I want to show two perspectives of the story. There was an attack on the capital of Saudi Arabia. I'm going to show the first article, which is the problem with mainstream news, and I'm going to show the second article, which is doing it right. The first one is Reuters. Yeah, Reuters. Saudi-led airstrike hit Yemen presidential palace, Houthi media. Warplanes from a Saudi-led coalition bombed Yemen's presidential palace in the center of Houthi-controlled capital Sana'a early on Monday, killing nearly 6 people, Houthi-run media reported. The coalition would enter Yemen's war in 2015 to push back Houthi fighters who had taken over the large parts of the country, said it had meant to hit senior leaders. I bet you did. First and second rank Houthi leadership were targeted, coalition spokesman Colonel Turki al-Maliki told reporters in Riyadh without confirming any casualties. 2 airstrikes damaged the palace as well as houses and businesses nearby in the city's central Tahrir district, and Saba news agency reported. Mind you, this is a busy area. This is a capital city. They're bombing in capital cities. I understand they may have targets, but clearly they didn't care about the civilians that were going to be in that particular area. We're murdering human beings. We're helping them murder human beings. That's what's taking place. United States backed. We've even had covert operations that we haven't necessarily been exposing that have been going through these operations assisting Saudi Arabia in murdering Yemenis. Abu Dhabi-based Sky News Arabia said Houthi leaders, including Mohammed al-Houthi, the head of the group's Supreme Revolutionary Committee, were inside the palace at the time but did not say what happened to him. The Houthi-run Al Masra TV said at least 6 people were killed and more than 30 wounded in the airstrikes. The two sides in Yemen have fought to a stalemate after more than 3 years of war. Saudi Arabia and its allies have accused their rival Iran of arming and supporting Houthis. We're arming and supporting Saudi Arabia! Think about that! At the exact same time where the United States is arming and supporting Saudi Arabia and helping it with its logistics, they're complaining that Iran is supporting the other side. They don't see the irony. They miss the irony. We're giving them weapons. We're giving them billions of dollars in weapons. Yemen is the poorest country in that region of the world, and Saudi Arabia still doesn't have the competence to win that war. We are assisting them in weaponized starvation. We are assisting them in using illness as a weapon in order to carve off cholera epidemic, the worst in the world. And we're assisting them in murdering Yemens, civilians, en masse, indiscriminately. They dropped this bomb in a business district. They dropped 2 bombs. Keep that in mind. The Houthis say they were fighting for Yemen's sovereignty against Western-backed plot to dominate the country. They were. That's what it is. If you have Saudi Arabia and the United States trying to overthrow the government, you have the West trying to change the government in that country. Yeah, Saudi Arabia is assisting, but the West is backing Saudi Arabia and trying to get rid of it. A Saudi-led coalition airstrike last month killed the Houthis' top civilian leader in Yemen, Salah Samed, the most senior official to be killed by the alliance. That's one way to tell the story. This is Reuters, giving their perspective of what's taking place over there, based on the information. It's rather dry. You get this person said this person said this is what the media said. There you go. The basics. And they explain why the conflict took place. This gentleman is going to be on my show tomorrow. Hussein al-Bakari. Problem with the media in this case is this attempt to be distant from the story. Meaning this is an attempt to put your face on the glass. Fact is, how can you understand something if you're putting your face just on the glass? You need to be there to some degree in order to get across what's taking place on the ground and what's taking place from the standpoint of the people who are being affected by this. Otherwise, how can you get an actual portrayal of the story? When you're watching a movie and you're seeing what took place in that person's childhood, and you're seeing what took place in that person's middle age, and you're seeing what took place when that person got older, and if that person did something that was bad and horrible when they got older, you as the viewer oftentimes have sympathy for the person because you were able to understand what took place that led up to that. I'm making the point that without context, how can you actually give a real portrayal of what's taking place? The events that you're describing are just raw events without the actual understanding of the people that were involved in this. Not to mention not necessarily giving a side on who's right and wrong, who's more right and who's wrong. But beyond who's more right and who's wrong, what's literally taking place, regardless of who's right and who's wrong, what's literally taking place as a result of their actions. You don't really get that from Reuters. This is what's taking place on the ground. You heard 2 missile strikes. This is Husseini Abagadi, who's there and had access to this videotape. This was explain to me for a moment. Saudi Arabia is bombing. Israel is bombing. The United States is bombing. Who's the terrorist in this situation? Who's the threat in this situation? It seems like the people who are screaming the loudest that something else is going on for somebody else are the people who are actually doing the bombing and actually doing the terrorism. They just dropped a bomb in the capital of a city with a bunch of people in this city. Regardless of what they want to say military targets, they didn't care about the civilian population. Here's another view of this. That's a double tap. A double tap is a term that's essentially you drop a bomb in a particular area. As you drop that bomb in an area, you know you're going to cause a certain amount of chaos and damage and, you know, disorder. And there are going to be people who come to try to help the people who died in the process, the people who were injured, the people who were hurt. You're going to get a lot of people, medics and all this other stuff coming into the area to try to assist. And then you drop another bomb on top. The goal is to get the maximum effective casualties in that process. The first video that you saw was the first bomb being dropped. The second video that you saw were people going to the area to try to assist when another bomb went off. Reuters reports that there's 2 bombs dropping, but Reuters doesn't necessarily get across the overarching grossness of what took place. We're going to hit you, and then we're going to hit you again in the exact same spot in order to maximize the damage that is taking place. These weren't 2 bombs dropped at the exact same time. These bombs were dropped a time frame between each other. They had enough time to try to actually get the wounded, get the ill, get the people who were hurt by this. Just enough time for the people to get there, for there to be another missile strike. We are helping these maniacs. Yes, we do the same policy. We're helping these maniacs. This is not something that we need to be signed up to. This is a government that is literally spreading terrorism throughout the world. This is a government that has literally been involved in 9/11, and this is a government that Hillary Clinton herself said is spreading terrorism throughout that region of the world. And now we've hitched our star to this wagon, and these guys are doing some gross, callous, disgusting things. If we're going to say that Iran is problematic because they have a theocratic government, what about Saudi Arabia? If we're going to say that Iran is supporting terrorism throughout that region of the world, what about Saudi Arabia? How on earth can you point the finger at Iran for anything when your friend and ally is Saudi Arabia? And right now, they're in the process of murdering large-scale civilians. They're dropping bombs in places and not caring the number of civilians that that are killed. They've killed thousands of civilians in this conflict. And they're so incompetent that with the billions of dollars they have at their disposal, they still can't win a war against the poorest nation in that region. whatever I think of other U.S. foreign policies, we should not be assisting Saudi Arabia to murder and harm other human beings. They are people. They breathe, they sleep, they have dreams, they have aspirations. They can be assholes sometimes, they can be dickhead at other times, they can be beautiful and kind, they can exhibit qualities that are goddamn near godly, and other times not so much. They can be pricks. They're people. Men, peace, standing up. Yeah, men, peace, standing up. I was thinking of toilets. I'm sorry. They have toilets that are in the ground. I guess I'm trying to make the point. They're human beings. When I was there, what came across to me was, these are human beings. They're just like me. They're just in a different space on the map, but they are just like me. And it is difficult to destroy and kill and maim and take that dispassionate disposition when what's taking place is chaos. It's ripping human beings apart. Reuters, yes, may give a story, but Reuters gives a story where you look at it and be like, oh, that sucks. Abakadi gives a story where you're like, oh my God, that's horrific. The perspective is, it's horrific, because it is horrific. And if you're walking away from it thinking that, oh, this is bad, then you've missed the story. Abakadi is going to be on my show tomorrow. I want to nail down the time with him, but he lives there. He's reporting from that region of the world, and he was nice enough to say, yes, he'll come on. So I'm not going to say that I'm not going to keep this one long, because we've gone over like 30 minutes. Let's see. I wasn't going to, this one just kind of came up, so I'll probably not keep this one too long, because I have another one coming up. The Saudis are very generous bribers, asks Hillary and Jared. You know what's funny about that, John B? In the Hillary Clinton emails, in the WikiLeaks, she expressly says these guys are, it's like they're exporting terrorism throughout the world, and maybe we can use some kind of influence in order to try to rein in what they're doing. That in no way stopped her from taking all of that money. Think about that. You in your head know that these people are bloodthirsty, and yet you're still saying, despite being bloodthirsty, I thank you very much for the donation to the Clinton Foundation. You're clear humanitarians. That's the only reason that you would be given to the Clinton Foundation. Whatever. All right, I'm going to end this because I have a few more that I want to do, but this is... We should not be helping Saudi Arabia. If they want to kill and murder and starve, leave them to their devices. Let them figure the shit out themselves. They have billions of dollars. They have a ton of money at their disposal. They don't need our help. They don't need our help. And not just not need our help. If there's any political influence that it is necessary. And by the way, the United States is okay with this because the United States doesn't necessarily want that government in place. That's the reason that the United States is helping. That's the reason why the United States is helping covert operations. They don't want Iran to get more of a dominant position in that region of the world, and they believe Houthis are related to Iran. Houthis are not directly related to Iran, whatever they want to say. Are Houthis getting weapons from Iran? Maybe. Is Saudi Arabia getting weapons and resources from the United States? Yes. Yes. So why are you bitching? Even the Reuters article, to make that point of saying that the United States is saying, or Saudi Arabia is saying Iran is helping them with weapons, without kind of making the point, or not even understanding or realizing, well, yeah, but the United States is backing Saudi Arabia. They don't see it. From their standpoint, the United States is doing the right thing because the United States is the United States. Completely missing the irony of the fact that they're accusing Iran of helping these guys, as if it's wrong for Iran to help back the person who they're interested in. They can back whoever they want. They can have allies with whoever they want. What? So what? But they tell you that because they want to make sure that, this is a dark mark. This is a bad thing. Completely missing the fact that the United States is working with Saudi Arabia to the tune of billions of dollars. They buy our weapons. We sell them more weapons. So I'll leave it. I don't want to think, and this has gone on way, way too long. This has gone on for 30 minutes. I think the first part of the video was supposed to be a video by itself, but I wanted to try to explain my point of view on this, how I see this stuff, how I bring this stuff together when I look at the world, and why I look at the world in the way I look at the world. So I apologize for this going this long, but I'll leave it here. All right, guys. If you enjoy the content, please feel free to share, like, subscribe, and of course, you can always support the Patreon. Thanks, guys.